Thank you for joining me here at the Real Rescue Podcast, powered by Vertical Helicast. You can go to verticalhelicast.com to check out not only this podcast, but you got the Hangar Z, the helicopter podcast, and Vertical MRO podcast. They've also added a couple spinoffs to Vertical MRO by doing Vertical MRO Tech Talk and Vertical MRO Alerts. Now let's give a shout out to our sponsors. Bell, Above and Beyond Flight. Check them out at bellflight.com. The Real Rescue Store. Go get all your swag to support this podcast at therealrescuestore.com. Now, coming up next in this episode, I am psyched to have our next guest on. He volunteered his own time to go up to Western North Carolina to help those in need after Hurricane Helene devastated the area. So please welcome this guy and his stories, my dad, Mr. Marty Quinn. My name is Jason Quinn. I am United States Coast Guard Rescue Swimmer number 500. These are my rescues and rescues from those of us that put our lives on the line every day so others may live. This is the Real Rescue Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Real Rescue Podcast. I'm psyched today because I get to interview my dad.
Again.
What? All right. So for that part of it is you and I actually had an interview basically on your life.
Yeah.
It was super fun. But this one, you're actually going to be the first guest of the family for me to come on because you have an experience. I've been actually talking to quite a few people about what's going on in Western North Carolina. And the greatest part about it is you don't do search and rescue, but yet you were called by friends to help. And you took off a whole bunch of days to go to Western North Carolina to help those in distress.
I did.
Hold on.
Okay.
Marty Quinn, welcome to the show. What's up?
Life is good.
Life is good.
Life is good.
So first one, hold on. I got multiple questions. Is tell everybody what you do a little bit for your background so they can understand the perspective of what your world is.
Well, my world is basically restoration on historic buildings, steeples, towers, domes, any kind of restoration. Mostly church steeples and whatnot, but I do houses and so on and so forth. And then being in the air, like I was with you for that one day down in Florida, got my feet wet, kind of, sort of. Not technically, but could have.
Playing in the Blue Drop Simulator with me. Yep.
Playing in the Blue Drop Simulator. So basically, nothing phases me when it comes to stuff like this. Friends of mine I got a call from somebody who said, hey, there's trouble up in Western North Carolina. And that was in Tryon and Saluda.
Yeah.
So I called a friend of mine that said he works with Keller Williams real estate company. And he said, hey, we're trying to get people together, trucks and trailers and so on and so forth. And I said, well, I have a truck and a trailer available. Let me know if I can help. And that's how it evolved to, I'll get back to you. And then about the next day, I think he said, well, I've got a group meeting at his office. And I said, okay, well, I'll get free. I'll free up one of my trucks and you tell me what you're going to need. In the meantime, a friend of mine in Hendersonville actually had called looking for a generator. His generator fried at his house. And I said, well, I have one, but I'm not sure if it's up and running. Let me get back to you. And then in the meantime, he left Hendersonville, came to Charlotte, and he was in the process of trying to buy a generator. Andy Howman, former Marine guy, friend of mine. I said, what do you need? He said, we need gas, we need water, we need food, we need electricity, we need everything. And I said, okay, let me see what I can put together. I'm in touch with Chris Farrell, another friend of mine, Mike McBride, another friend of mine, got together. And I said, I'll load up and take up whatever I can. And then at that moment in time, I made a couple of the calls, Pam Colbert, Billy Jordan and Sandy Burke and a couple other people called and said, hey, bring whatever you can bring. And at that moment in time, I said, okay, and proceeded to get 15 cases of water, 50 gallons of fuel, 30 cans of fuel for chainsaws, several gallons of bar and chain oil, food, 60 free pounds of ice, I think 12 or 15 bags of ice, and a ton of food, and just headed up.
Oh, and you actually brought a bunch of chainsaws with you as well.
Oh, yeah, I brought, 4 chainsaws, loppers, every-
loppers. Okay, let's
everything
talk
I had.
loppers. Loppers are the big, the branch, the
cut the
cutters.
branches. Most,
Big branch cutters.
yeah, probably the best tool I brought
Yeah.
up there, because, the canopy of a tree, you don't need a chainsaw for the, just get in there and just start cutting and pulling, get that out of the way, and then get to the tree.
So we're gonna get into that. You brought how many chainsaws with you?
4.
Just want everybody to know there was 4 chainsaws in the garage, along with all the other stuff that you were bringing. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Just so everybody understands what I have to go through much later in life.
Oh, they'll be gone by the time you need them.
But all right, so you at the time, where are you working at the time? Like, where are you supposed to be?
I was supposed to go to Snow Hill, which is 4 hours from here. I was scheduled to go there that week. And I called Marty Morris at the church and said, listen, I've got friends that are stranded, need some help in the mountains. You're 4 hours from here in the wrong direction from the mountains. So I'm just letting you know I'm going to take a couple of days and go to the mountains, if that's okay with you. And he texted me back, just keep me posted. Go be safe.
Cool.
Yeah, he's pretty accommodating.
That's awesome. And again, like what I'm trying to emphasize with this whole evolution is, and everybody's probably, if you haven't heard it already, I've already released the other 2 episodes where we've had people up there, people flying their personal helicopters, people are volunteering their time. You went to an area that wasn't quite in Nashville, so there were certain areas that were hit really hard, and there are pockets that are hit really hard. But the in particular area that you went to, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to tell everybody kind of what you went up there to do and how you were able to help those in need. And then if there are any stories that really stand out to you of people that you were helping, like
Sure.
how their reactions were.
Sure. So first of all, I headed up in Hendersonville and Horseshoe, and Route 64 was totally shut down. The town of Hendersonville was shut down. There was no power. When I got there, none of the traffic lights were working. None of the lights in the city were working. Andy Howman, who had come to town, loaded up, and I was in touch with him all the way up. And he said he got through to his location. So he was home with a new generator. I talked to Chris Farrell. They were below me in Tryon and Saluda. He said they were all set. They didn't need any more. So I said, well, I'm just going to continue on. So I got past Andy's. I got to Pam and Sandy's and Bill Jordan's. And when I was coming up on 64, there was a barricade, and it wasn't marked very well. And I went right through it. When I went through it, there was a tree down the wall. This isn't going to work. So when I came back out, it was at a 4-way intersection, but it was so dark, I wasn't really sure which way to go. Anyway, I'm taking a left and going around, and I avoided that tree and came back out on 64, back up into the backside of Hendersonville off of 64. And I was probably at that point, maybe 7 o'clock at night. It's dark out, no lights anywhere. But I get into Sunrise, Sunset, somewhere in there. And I pulled in, and I was at Pam's house. And Pam's 83 years old. And Sandy's next door, she's, I don't know, 40. And Bill's right next door. So first thing I did was knock on the door. So listen, you'll have power within an hour. I pulled the generator off, got it running. I had lights on in hers and Bill's, Sandy's, within an hour. I brought up 600 feet of extension cords.
600 feet?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And actually it was, 600.
Wow.
Yeah, 600-foot cords. I set the generator up in a neutral spot, ran it to Pam, and as soon as her light came on, tears were running down her face. She's 80 some odd years old. And it's relief is on its way, basically. Somebody's there. I had ice, I had water, case of water, food. And the next thing I did, I plugged in a refrigerator. And her refrigerator come on. Now, granted, the food they'd already got rid of all their food. Nobody had saved any food. And by the next day, I let the generator run that night till about midnight. I shut it off. I turned it back on at, I think, 8 o'clock in the morning, and I would let it run until 11 o'clock at night and shut it off because everything's going to stay cold, can stay cold, and nobody wants to hear a generator all night long.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. But the next day, basically, I got up and just started clearing trees off of roads, you know, cutting limbs out and trees out. So if I did that and one guy up the street, his name's Robin, I don't know his last name, he came down, he cut with me for a few hours and just making a way so when the reinforcements could come in, things would be clear for them. And that's basically what I did.
Cutting trees.
Cutting trees, pulling brush, cutting trees, pulling brush.
Trying to make way for the other people to come in, the supply trucks come in.
Yeah.
You're talking all the power companies, water companies, everybody that's got to come in and survey all this stuff.
Sure. So survey before you could, the power lines were down across the street right where I was working.
Yeah.
And they were dead. And a guy from, it wasn't Duke Energy, but somebody like that came in, I think it was on Thursday. And he's surveying the area. I was asking, so what about the power? I can't get the tree was huge. It was over. He said, don't worry about that. We'll just pull them out and run new ones above it. We'll pick those up later. So he surveyed the area, sunrise, sunset. And right after him, within 4 or 5 hours, a crew came in from Ashland Tree Service with 3 trucks and 5 or 6 guys. And the guy said, oh, we'll just start cutting, like doing what I was doing. They were cutting and trimming, and they're doing it out of a bucket and plus cutting up the blowdowns.
And you were on the ground helping?
I'm on the ground. Yeah,
Working with these guys.
Well, not with
Kind
them.
of.
I had already cut it, but what I'm cutting, like one guy, he got his chainsaw stuck in a tree. Well, I've got 4 chainsaws. So don't worry. Between my 4 and the one you've got stuck, we'll get it out.
Yeah.
So we got it out. It took maybe 15, 20 minutes. But when a tree's down horizontal, you don't know
Right.
it happens. I mean, you get a chainsaw stuck on a branch, but you're not cutting it right, and it just happens. But they came in, and then I had brought a bunch of food, roasted chickens and chicken pieces and parts, and the neighbors were dishing it out to these guys that are working. You know, case of water. I went up with 15 cases of water. I think I came back with 3 or 4. I came back with, I think, 5 gallons of gas.
And how much did you go up with?
50. I went up with
Holy
50 gallons of gas.
Wow.
Okay, came back with 5. And I also dropped off the fuel for chainsaws. I think I went with 30 cans. I came back with probably 12 or 15 because I just, hey, take it. You need, it's here to be used up,
Right.
you know. And I think one of the saving grace is just peanut butter and jelly and bread
Oh,
for some people.
love
You
my
know.
peanut butter and jelly, man.
Yeah, and then the other thing, just before I left Charlotte, I came back in and I thought, you know, I should grab some cash. So I grabbed a bunch of cash, and going up, I stopped at an Ingles, and it was cash only
Oh, man.
because all the power's down. And I'm thinking,
Can't
well,
use credit cards.
you know, it was a blessing in disguise, man. Just last second, I said, I'm going to take some cash with me, and it worked out pretty well.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Nice job, Dad.
Yeah.
Well
It was-
done.
Yeah.
Well done.
Matter of fact, Andy Heilman, I saw him yesterday at this function I was at, a memorial service, he and Sue. And one of the other guys who was there, his daughter took my generator when I got back. That generator's gone to the other side of the mountain. It's been shared right now by 5 different families. They use it to get the power on. They pass it on to other people.
No way.
Yeah, right now it's with and also I send my extension cords with them and the fuel. So that's on the other side of Black Mountain somewhere. So we do, you know, and everybody. The beautiful thing is everybody's helping everybody.
Yeah.
There's no attitude. There's no angst. They're just happy to see people there helping out.
And this is exactly why, one, I've asked you to come on to tell this story. And the other one is because nobody's being paid to do this. This is out of everybody, the goodness of everybody's heart right here. There's been a major catastrophe out in Western North Carolina. And I'll even throw in Kentucky and Tennessee. I haven't spoken to anybody out there, but you guys here in North Carolina and what you guys have done is amazing. We're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors.
Bell is proud to sponsor Vertical Helicasts and their vision to hold meaningful mission, safety, and best practice conversations in the helicopter industry. The lessons learned from these conversations will undoubtedly shape the future of both new and veteran helicopter operators.
and therealrescuestore.com. Your shop for all your podcast worthy gear. From comfortable shirts to cozy mugs, we've got everything to showcase your love for your favorite podcast. So what are you waiting for? Head to therealrescuestore.com and let your gear do the talking.
Well, the first guy that came in from on the power crew, the license plate of his truck said Missouri, but he was from Kansas City.
Okay.
JJ. The other guys came in. They were from Detroit. They were from Minnesota. They were from all over the country, coming in with big equipment. Be able to get to places where I couldn't get to without a big truck.
Yeah.
So, and it was, we saw the expression, people's faces light up. The rescue's on its way. And I did, by the way, speak to your friend in the helicopter.
Yep.
Before I went up there to see if I need to bring anything up for him. Like you said, they can only take so much in the helicopter.
Right.
When I talked to him, he said, we're already in the air. We had left Lake Norman. And then Mario, another friend of yours who came in from California,
Yeah.
he had called me and he was trying to get to Hickory. And I said, well, I'm already in Hendersonville, but if you want to get to Hickory, jump on 85 South, get on 321 North, it'll take you right into Hickory. And he was still there when I was coming down. So I've talked to 4 or 5 of your buddies that are doing this.
Oh, yeah.
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 And it's
So-
impressive.
It is extremely impressive. And actually, a shout out to Wesley Rhodes, pilot. He had his own helicopter and out there flying, I think it's an R-22 or an R-44, I can't remember, Little Robinson helicopter, helping out. Part of the 60 that showed up of civilian helicopters, donating their helicopter and time to go help those in need.
Sure.
And it was awesome. There is a story that I'd like you to share that you shared with me earlier when we were kind of chatting about this. There was a tree that had fallen on a lady's garden, which looked like a labyrinth.
It was a labyrinth.
Okay.
It looked like one.
So here's the other thing about this is so when I show up on scene, sometimes it's the worst day of their life and it's a nightmare and they just want out of that area. This scene is a little bit different because everybody's staying where they're at and they just want the comfort and knowing that people are there to help. And this little thing that you did right here was something that she could come back and be like, chaos came in and there's cleanup crew. There's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Sure.
There's whatever you want to call it, but this nice, wow.
So that was Pam's house.
Okay.
And huge tree, huge. It came down and crushed her garden bench, cast iron, wrought iron garden bench. And when we're cutting it, she said, well,
How big is the garden?
an 80-foot circle, maybe bigger,
Wow. Okay.
all laid out in bricks. It was her meditation spot. It's her garden. It's her sanctuary, if you will.
Okay.
So she kept trying to tell me, so where's the entrance? So she was telling me where the entrance was.
Now, how tall off the ground is the labyrinth?
It's just a stack of bricks laid up on edge.
Okay.
So,
So it's only like 4
inches off the ground.
4 inches off the ground. Okay.
so if you
I
hit,
don't want people thinking like you're trying to find an entrance into like a
no,
10-foot wall.
this is on the ground. It's a ground labyrinth, and
Yeah.
it's pretty ornate. So when Robert came down to help me, I said, Robert, you cannot drag. I'm going to cut this canopy out. You cannot drag it. You have to pick the branches up. And I found the entrance to the labyrinth. That was the first thing, find the entrance. And she told me about where it was. So once I found that, you could see the forms of the bricks. So you could start cutting and stepping over the bricks to each row of the labyrinth. And it was big. I mean,
You said 80 feet.
80 feet, maybe
that's
more.
pretty big.
Maybe more. so anyway, he forgot. The next day he comes in and he starts grabbing. Robert, you cannot drag the branches. Pam's gone. Her daughter came and picked her up. She's gone for the day. When she comes back, I want this exposed for her. Plus, I didn't know how big her bench was. It's crushed by the tree.
Yeah.
And all, anyway, so he and I stopped picking it up, and a couple other people came over and helped. And so inch by inch, we were exposing this labyrinth, and I got to her wrought iron bench. It was crushed, but in the middle of finding it, she had a crystal the size of a fist, huge,
Okay.
and it was on a chain, and there was another crystal above that, and it didn't break. It was
wow.
it was still all intact. So when I found that, I gave it to a neighbor. She said, "I'll hang it up for her," and we walked around, and by the end of that day, the entire labyrinth was exposed and up and clear. No, it wasn't fixed.
Right.
There were lots of bricks that were tipped over. There were a lot of bricks that were out of place, but you could see where they went. And she has a gardener guy that comes help her. So in a matter of a couple of weeks, I'll say at least a couple of weeks, they could have it somewhat back to where she had it. In the middle of this was her prayer garden. So, and with the right guy, somebody could possibly fix the mangled iron, but not me. Somebody could.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, tears of joy. Like,
When she came back,
she came back the next day, or it might have been the day after, and just joy all over her face. I'd cut a path for her. She used to have to walk out of her yard all the way. Not that it's a big walk, but she have to walk around down the street, around the corner, come back up. I cut a path right through her yard to her neighbor's yard, so it's a straight walk. So it's 8 feet wide. You can walk right through there now. This is awesome. This is heaven now. I don't have to go walk 400 yards. I only have to walk 50. So anyway, it was joyful. I have to say it was a joyful experience at the end. People are happy. Not that everything was open,
right.
but before I left, 64 was open up to Horseshoe. It wasn't open all the way to Asheville. It was open up through Horseshoe into, I can't remember the next town because I didn't go that far.
Yeah.
And, but even going up, when I first went up and I got to Shelby, there were little pockets of trees down. You'd see 5 or 6 trees down. And 100 yards later, you'd see 5 or 6 trees. But after I went past that, there were rows of 100 yards of trees down.
Wow.
In a row. That's why 26 got closed. You could not have driven on 26 after that storm. And even in Chimney Rock, it's gone basically.
Right.
So, but at the end of the day, people were happy. People knew that help was on its way.
Yeah.
They had electricity. They had water. They had shelter. They had food. It was pretty nice. So I left on Sunday, and I was spent when I got back here. Like I said, I unloaded my truck. I had 5 cases of water and 5 gallons of gas. And Eddie came and took my generator and the water, some of the water, and all the gas the next day. So that's that. Then I went to work.
That's awesome. Hey,
Yeah.
well done. I want to touch on a couple of things because you just said it. You said you came back and you were spent. It reminded me of 2 things. You were actually talking to me about this a little bit, that there was one of the other guys up there was helping you, like doing chainsaw, cutting logs and stuff. And he took a break. I don't want to ruin the story. Go ahead. Tell the story.
Well, it got hot. It got really hot. And he said, it's getting hot. It's going to be hot. Why don't we take a break and come back in a couple of hours? And I agree with him. Sure. I've been cutting. It's like 2 o'clock. No, it was.
What time did you start? I assume it was like 9.
Yeah,
8 or 9.
9 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
Let people wake
Yeah.
up a little bit.
Yeah.
So this is probably 9
I-
to 1, let's say.
Okay. That's good.
And I
Yeah.
said-
Thanks for waiting until 9 before you fire up the chainsaw. Good idea.
Well, one of them was a battery operated one, didn't make any noise. And my other saving grace was, thank God I brought extra chains, because you hit a rock or a stone or a brick, which happens.
Oops.
Oops, you're done cutting. But anyway, he said, well, I said, we'll start up again around 3:30. I said, okay. I said, you'll hear my chainsaw fire up. That's because the neighbors are close.
Yeah.
So I get back over and I start cutting, and I'm cutting, and I'm cutting, and I'm cutting, and I'm cutting. He shows up about 4 o'clock. And this is before the labyrinth was totally cleared. He goes, wow, you cut everything up. Yeah, it's all cut up. It's not cleared out. Don't break any bricks. The big stuff was all cut out.
Yeah.
Now I'm back in there walking through the poison ivy. You stay on that side, I'll cut it, you pull it, you cut it out. But yeah, it was good to have somebody there. But he said, it's nice to have somebody here with a strong back and a willpower to go through this stuff. And that's the other thing. When the guys from the power line got there, the pieces that were on this little, like a road to connect two roads, a dirt road, I'd cut everything on that road. I hadn't picked it up, but I cut it all, found out to wedge it or roll it, which was not that much. It's just time. They didn't have to do it. They could drive down the road. They
Right.
come with a truck and boom, we can get a truck down here.
Yeah.
So it was good. It was good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The other side about it that I want to touch on, because you said you were spent when you got back here. You were up there for 4 full days,
5 days.
5 full days.
Yeah.
Okay. You come back here, you're spent.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many people have out there that use chainsaws or run chainsaws all day, but I have. And after even a day, like you're smoked. Like it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Well, when you get back here, you got to go back to work. Like you got to go make money now. You just donated 5 days of your time helping everybody out up there, getting power, water, cutting roads, food.
Yeah. Shelter.
Amazing.
Yeah. Hey, Jason, I wasn't the only one though.
But that's the greatest part about this.
Hundreds of people, hundreds and hundreds of people were doing this all over the state. There are hundreds
Still up there.
still doing it.
Still flying.
E-
Still
Em-
trucking.
Emily Monday Brinkley, Eddie's daughter, bought 10 generators, took them up to the fire department in Black Mountain, came back and bought 10 more and took them up so people could have power. And she took mine. I told her she couldn't give mine away, but that's the generosity a lot of these people have, and they feel for this. People have lost their homes, everything they had, their
right.
lives.
Right.
Right now, I think they're 90-something passed away, and that they're not finished counting them.
Right.
It might be a year before they find some of these people. That's how bad the river raged. It's just so, it's just a piece of heaven, and a lot of people got help up there. And there are a lot of good people out there.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, Dad, I want to say thank you for coming on and just sharing your little piece of being up there, not only just helping friends, but helping those in need, those in distress. And man, you're my first family member I get to interview for the podcast.
There you go.
That's exciting. Like, I'm so excited about this.
Me too.
Hey.
Yeah, it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you did a good deed for, 30 people, 40, 5 people, 10 people.
Yeah.
Whoever gets to share it and express it, and even the guys from the power company, when they had fresh food, somebody bring a roasted chicken.
Yeah.
Really, in a case of water. Yeah,
Yeah.
they eat like beans out of a can. These guys, you know what I mean? Just to keep going. Of course, there's a lot of energy in there, but I'll take a piece of chicken any day.
Yeah, right.
Hot chicken.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So
Before I let you go, actually, there's one more thing I just thought of is that you might end up going back up there because there's still a lot of work to be done up there. And there are still people that need help, but you might be going back up.
well, there's a couple of friends of mine up there. Their houses got damaged. There's some broken windows. There's some framework that needs to be done. There's some other residual cleanup that's not an emergency.
Yeah.
Once everything's up and settled, that stuff I can go up and do on a weekend for a couple of weekends and bang some nails and put in some boards, and so that stuff is not emergency stuff. That's cosmetic stuff. That's all. Yeah, for friends in need.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And there's a phone call made to a couple people because you have a truck, and what I've been told is there's a whole bunch of camping trailers that have been bought or donated to people up there, and your name got thrown into the hat to potentially hook a trailer up and drive it up. It could be sometime this week.
It'll happen, but this week it'll happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to Snow Hill on Tuesday, but if I have to skip Snow Hill and take a trailer up there and then go to Snow Hill, I can make that happen.
That's what I'm just saying. Like that right there, the generosity of everybody to help everybody up there is just
And if they're
amazing.
not, if those camping trailers are not that big, I could load a couple of them on a 20-foot trailer, because camping trailers usually aren't that big, and I can
Right.
take maybe up 2 at a time or 3 at a time, because the My big trailer is 20 feet long. So I think camping trailers are only about 10.
We will see.
So sometimes if they're pop-up trailers, you know, we load them on the big trailer, hook it up, and, you know, I've got a F-250 badass truck. I'll just bring them up.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
Again, the generosity.
thanks.
Well, Dad, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experiences up there. I really appreciate it. For everybody else that's up there, continuing to do the good Lord's work,
Yeah,
because it's not done, it's not over. There's a lot of work that needs to be done up there, and a lot of
Yeah.
good people doing it.
a lot
So,
of good people.
yeah. But
Glad to be on here with you.
hey, it's my pleasure. About damn time.
Ours.
What's up?
Rock
And
it.
with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of here.
Out of here.
Now it's time for me to pull chocks and take off. But before I go, I'm always looking for the memorable rescues that people have done. If you have one that you're willing to share or know somebody who has a story, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to highlight it here at The Real Rescue. For everybody that is standing by for that SAR alarm, remember, those in distress are praying for a miracle. They are going to get you. So until next time, fly safe and swim hard. Thank you for joining me today here at the Real Rescue Podcast, powered by Vertical Helicast. We'd also like to say thank you to our sponsors for this episode.
Bell is proud to sponsor Vertical Helicasts and their vision to hold meaningful mission, safety, and best practice conversations in the helicopter industry. The lessons learned from these conversations will undoubtedly shape the future of both new and veteran helicopter operators.
And therealrescuestore.com, your shop for all your podcast-worthy gear. From comfortable shirts to cozy mugs, we've got everything to showcase your love for your favorite podcast. So what are you waiting for? Head to therealrescuestore.com and let your gear do the talking.
Smile for the camera over there. Are you doing it?
Yep.
All right, we're the Golden Boys.
The Golden Boys.
Here we go.
Golden Queens. What's up?
Quins with the Midas touch. Here we go. My money's on me.
Probably. I don't do this all the time, Marty.
And sometimes on the gold is sometimes tighter to the paper. When you're outside, it's really nice when the gold is a little tight. When you're inside, if it's loose, it's fine. But outside, there we go. Don't rock the boat, baby. There we go. Beautiful. Beautiful. Beautiful.